Relevent Sports and the International Champions Cup. It's a pleasure to be here for today's press conference regarding the match to be played here this summer between Inter Milan and PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, as part of the International Champions Cup. It's my pleasure to introduce our two speakers today. First, we have Rob Mullens, the Athletic Director of Oregon University, to my left, and then Charlie Stillitano, who is the chairman of Relevant Sports. To start, we're going to ask each of them for a statement. So we'll start with Mr. Mullens.
Well, thank you, Ben. Welcome. We're extremely excited to be here for this announcement, obviously, for our program, for our community, and for our state to be able to have an opportunity to host an ICC match is something spectacular, and to be able to welcome the best of international soccer to Autzen Stadium is something that's extremely exciting for us, for our staff, and for our community. So thank you for giving us that opportunity.
Rob, I want to thank you, everyone here at the University of Oregon, for an incredible welcome, bringing this weather here today. I left, it was 36 degrees and raining in New York, so I want to thank you for that, and also thank you, Nike, for their support. I want to congratulate, first of all, the University of Oregon men's basketball team. As Rob said to me, if we had one, it would be nice to have one more win, but I guess everyone says that, except one team in the end. We love bringing the ICC loves bringing top caliber soccer to the university environment. We think it's a great environment. This year we are at Michigan, University of Michigan, Ohio State, and now at University of Oregon. It is absolutely spectacular when you see these facilities here. I've never seen anything like it in my life, and now I know why my wife wants me to move to the Pacific Northwest. This matchup at Autzen Stadium will feature Inter Milan. It's won the Champions League 3 times, won the Italian Serie A 18 times, and maybe the newcomer in the block, PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, which has probably the wealthiest ownership group in the world, them and Man City, and they seem to buy players and have a spectacular team. This year, they're one of the favorites to win the UEFA Champions League, so this should be a lot of fun to have them here this year. Now, I also I have to give game details. They get mad at me when I don't do this correct. Paris Saint-Germain versus Inter Milan, FC Internazionale at Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon. Sunday, July 24th at 2 p.m. The game will be on the ESPN family of networks. All our matches across the ICC will be on either ESPN or ESPN2, so we're really, really happy about that. Tickets are available to the public today. So right after we wrap up here, go to internationalchampionscup.com to buy your seats for the match.
Thank you very much, Charlie. We're actually going to play videos that each team sent. Hopefully I get the technology right here.
Okay, Kevin, how do you feel before the summer tour in USA? We know there is a big game against Inter Milan in Oregon. Is it exciting for you?
Of course, it's going to be a big match against Inter Milan. They have a great team, so I think me and the whole team is excited to go to America to play this big match against Inter in Oregon in a nice stadium. So we're all looking forward for that.
Partecipare a un torneo prestigioso come International Champions Cup sarà affascinante. A Eugene, la prima partita del nostro torneo in una struttura di alto livello come Autzen Stadium e contro l'avversario che conosciamo bene come il Paris Saint-Germain. Sarà bello tornare negli Stati Uniti e ritrovare il calore del tifo americano. Ci vediamo in Oregon 24 luglio.
Just to quickly give some context, the first video from Paris Saint-Germain is Kevin Trapp, who is the starting goalkeeper of the club and potential German international, I think, right, Charlie?
Yep.
And then the next video was the assistant manager, Dejan Stankovic, former player as well of Inter Milan and probably one of the best free kick takers of the last 20 years.
Yeah, also he's the only player to play for 3 different teams in the World Cup.
Yeah,
because his, I guess it was former Yugoslavia, and then
so it was Serbia,
Montenegro, and then
Serbia, I think.
Serbia. So he's played in 3 different national teams.
This says Autzen Stadium, really cool.
Yeah, I like the French, Oregon.
We'd like to move into questions for each of our representatives here. If you have a question, please just raise your hand. We have a microphone, and we can start right here.
Hey, Charlie, Ryan Thorburn from the Register Guard.
Ryan.
In addition to the university atmosphere, what is it about this decision to have it in a smaller market like Eugene? And how, do you think it'll sell out, and how fast?
Yeah, we think the game will sell out. We certainly hope it does. Really, it was a couple factors that brought us to Eugene. One, into the area, both these are Nike teams, and they talked originally about perhaps even one of them training over in Nike's headquarters. We've done that in the past with Nike teams. So that was one of the considerations. The second, I think, and maybe even more importantly, was, a new venue that we wanted to try. And there's a great soccer market here in this area, youth soccer market. And, America's really changed remarkably. I've had the pleasure of running the World Cup in New York in 1994. And I've been, as I like to say, pushing his boulder up the hill for 20 years. And it's finally changed. And now you see, kids, boys and girls, they know who these players are. They wouldn't have a problem knowing who these guys were on the screen, and maybe we all would, but the kids see them every day, and this is such a hotbed for soccer and for sports. We thought it just made great sense.
And just a quick follow-up in terms of Autzen Stadium, will you play on their field surface, or will you have to?
No, we have to put grass in, and this is something we've got used to doing now. We are, again, obviously, for so many of the stadium now have gone to field turf, and it's quite good. The difference is that these guys have to actually play on grass when they go back. So this is probably become it is the preeminent preseason tournament in the world, and these guys really have taken this seriously, as has the managers. So they've all demanded that they want to play on the same surface they're going to play on in 2 weeks' time, really, because the season starts in 2 weeks' time. We are not ripping up the field. I love that. Last we were somewhere else. They said, "You're ripping up the field, aren't you?" It was Michigan. I said, no, Mr. Ross would not like that. Mr. Ross is an alum of University of Michigan, our owner and boss, and he's given something like $300 million to University of Michigan, so I'm not touching his field. Although he's promised me they're going to go to grass soon, so we'll see what happens.
We have a question in the back right there.
Charlie, as far as a marketing campaign for this, are you hoping to get more fans that are diehard soccer fans, or some people that are trying to be reintroduced to the game?
I think whenever you have the International Champions Cup, we have to go for both. We have some teams that are, Inter Milan is really a storied franchise, and Paris Saint-Germain is really a relatively new kid on the block. They're famous because, actually, I think they didn't come together until 1947, which is new for soccer teams in Europe, and it was the marriage of two teams, Paris and Saint-Germain, and they came together and they formed this team, and now they were bought by the Qataris a little while back. And so, there's a lot of people that don't really know the history of Paris Saint-Germain, because in a very honest way, it's not a team that's won a lot in the past, but it is famous for being in one of the most magnificent cities in the world and being the only team there. So I think whenever you have that, you need to draw from not just probably three groups: diehard soccer fans, sports fans, and curious people to come see at Autzen Stadium, this incredible stadium, to see it with grass. All respect to the university here. It's a different atmosphere, obviously with a different surface and different players on the field. So you got to have a combination of all if we're going to have a chance to fill it up.
Next question right there.
Rob, Oscar from KZI. I'm actually curious, has there been a lot of conversation with the city about some of the benefits that this might bring to the city of Eugene, and what might some of those benefits be?
Well, obviously, when you're hosting an event of this scale, and we have some experience with that with Olympic trials and other large international track events, it's a large coordination effort, much like a home football game. So we talk to a lot of those same parties. And obviously, there's an economic impact benefit. But for us in the community of Eugene, it's another opportunity to introduce something, an A-level international soccer match, for our community. And just think about what's going to happen in the month of July. We're going to have 10 days of Olympic trials where top 3 finishers go on to compete in the Olympic Games. July 15th, we get to host James Taylor at Matthew Knight Arena, and then the opportunity to have Inter Milan and PSG at Autzen Stadium. That's pretty remarkable for a community of our size, but again, with the support and efforts of a bunch of different organizations, we're able to execute these events flawlessly.
If I could just add, I mean, we found that many of the fans travel for the International Champions Cup. So you'll get people from Paris and from Italy to come and see Eugene, Oregon. They probably wouldn't be one of the cities they would say, oh, top of the head, let's go visit Eugene. But this gives people an excuse to visit, as well as fans from all over the country. That may be a Paris fan from New York coming out to see the game. And so we have a lot of research on that, which I'm sure we can dig up and get to you, but it's really, we find that it really is something nice for the communities. And then finally, it's fascinating how the Europeans and the rest of the world look at this, because a good example is when Real Madrid played Manchester United at the University of Michigan Stadium. We had 110,000 people there, and the Spanish papers, Marca, the big Spanish sports paper, actually printed the picture and changed the color scheme because there were so many red shirts in the audience, and they changed it to white. And then the English papers busted them, if you will, and sent out the true picture across the front page of all the English newspapers. This is really the before and after picture, if you will, or the after and before picture. And so what's funny is that the University of Michigan, that doesn't need any introduction here in the States, obviously, but all over the world, people are talking about the University of Michigan. So, and I really expect the same thing here at Oregon, the way the French guy said Oregon, which I love that. But I think it does have a real impact for the community outside it. Eugene becomes a household name, if you will, in places like Paris and Milan.
Further questions? One in the back and one up here.
Charlie, is it kind of hard to market specific players win this tournament, considering, you got the European Championships this year, so players might want to rest during this period? And as far as, player transfers, players are always transferring with the game, a few months away. Is it hard? Is it a focus to just focus on the teams and the prestige of the teams?
Yeah, I think that's something you do. We found over the years, I've been doing this since early 2000s, and there's been a real change over the years. First of all, we do it in preseason, and you can't, soccer's the type of sport you really have to get your stamina and wind up, and it's not like you can just say, you know what, I'm not going to do preseason this year. The other factor is that their seasons start right away. Paris Saint-Germain's season starts August 5th, I think, or 6th.
The end of the first week.
At the end of the first week, that Friday in August. So they have to bring their full team. Now, there is an issue with players that could be injured, but that could be any time during the year. And specifically, they have to have some vacation time after the European Championships. But having said that, you're really only talking about one or two players, and you don't really know who they are until that team makes it to the Final Four, if you will, of the Euros. The Centenary Cup, which is being played here in the U.S., ends quite early, and so that won't affect it at all. So, for example, guys from Latin America, the Messis, and Neymar's will be available for our tournament. So I don't really see it as having a big impact. And we saw it, the other big change is that teams recognize that America is an important market, as is, we have games in China and Australia. And if they don't bring their team, their players, it really hurts their brand. And we saw this for the first time. You can go back to 2003. We bought a Manchester United team to Chicago that left some players home for sort of extra vacation. And Sir Alex Ferguson, my dear friend, said, that'll never happen again, because the team goes out. It doesn't look good. He's not prepared for the season. and it's a poor reflection upon the club. So these clubs are not, they used to be little clubs. Now they're making almost, 600-700 million pounds a year. These big clubs, and that is something they have a sophisticated marketing group, no different than ours, and they just can't afford to leave players home.
Charlie, if they're at or near full strength, I guess, how would you see these two clubs matching up?
Right now, Paris Saint-Germain is probably one of the top clubs in the world, and Inter Milan has gone through a rebuilding process this year. They've spent a lot of money to sort of get back into the upper echelon of Italian football and European football. They've stumbled a little bit recently, and so it's if you had to say today, then you give the edge to Paris Saint-Germain. I would say this, though, as the gentleman in the back mentioned, I mean, this is what, in soccer, you buy players from other teams. So, and I don't know where these players are going to end up. So just the opposite can happen. As much as you say, well, we want to bank on this one player coming, but then he gets sold. But then what always happens at the big clubs, they buy players. And the rumors for the teams like the Paris Saint-Germain that have endless money, as a friend of mine used to say, they're owned by a country. They have endless money as they do. That's an exciting part of our tournament. Is people are like, wow, I get to see young players that are coming in that they're bringing in, but also get to see superstars that have come over to that team.
Just a quick note too, Inter Milan, for anyone that follows MLS here in the Timbers, the owner of Inter Milan is also the owner of DC United, Eric Tohier, who bought the team, I think, 2 years ago.
Yep.
So they have a new owner who also potentially will spend a lot of money. Further questions? I think, right there.
Rob, besides the grass going over the turf, what other changes might we see to Autzen, and what might the turnaround on that be? Is it going to be a few days before the match, or are we going to be seeing changes throughout the months before to Autzen Stadium and the area surrounding?
No, I think Autzen will. I think what you'll see is this will very much look and feel like you see us on a sold-out football game. Obviously, it'll be energized with some event-specific opportunities, and so I'm sure it'll take on a festival atmosphere. But I think Autzen will look and feel and will execute very much similar to we do on a home football game.
Any other questions? I think that may be it there. Well, I think we'll ask our two representatives here to stand up and take a photo quickly, and then they'll both be available for any one-on-one interviews or any follow-up questions outside in sort of the lobby area right outside. But thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to our two speakers today, and thank you guys for coming. We look forward to seeing you this summer.
Thank you. Great stuff.
Just take a quick picture.
Did you right here?
Yeah, I guess.
I hate standing next to skinny people. Thank you so much.
I'm jealous.
We've got an area just outside where you guys came in.
Yeah, it's pretty quick when they roll it in, and then, yeah, okay.